You know, Noah and I have been approached to participate in this sort of avant-garde documentary study on marriage. Does anybody want to refill?
We have?
Yes, it's this award-winning British filmmaker who's helming the piece, and I just couldn't turn down the opportunity to support her artistic vision.
Oh, we're doing that too.
No, I don't think it's probably a different thing because
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I haven't heard about this yet.
Yeah,
Right, the lady, she came by the workshop and she begged us to do it because of our open relationship.
What was her name? Lillian or?
No, love, no, it was Gideon. Gideon.
Vivian.
Yes.
Her name's Vivian Prudek. Her name's Vivian Prudek.
Yes. Yes.
When Alice is right. It was Vivian.
When did she?
Yeah, when did this come about?
No,
I haven't heard.
When did she
No,
come in?
I think I deserve to know
When did
whatever
she-
avant-garde sex games you signed us up for.
It's not a game.
Avant-garde. I mean, but I can totally see why you would think that.
What's that supposed to mean?
You know what's great is that we're all gonna do it.
Are we talking about sex?
No, no one's talking about sex. You're the only one who brought sex into it. It's not like that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Oh, look at that.
Look at this.
Oh,
it's all
great.
happening.
I know.
Tell me what it's like to have a film that you concepted come to fruition.
It's pretty surreal and also super warm inside. You know, it's like birthing a baby, a film baby. This is my second film baby, and I also had 2 children that I made with my body.
So you have a good reference point right there.
Yeah.
When did the concept for this film come about?
I started writing this movie sort of like 9 years ago or something like that, when I was very cynical and jaded about the subject of matrimony, and I kind of thought, oh, it's kind of archaic in this day and age of like, you know, swiping and whatnot, you know, and just being distracted. It felt like almost a doomed institution, you know, and I didn't want to believe that, but that's just, I coined myself as like a realist about it. And so I took on the subject, and then I met my now husband, Scott Campbell, during that process. So then I was wildly
So your views sort of shifted while you were writing it.
Yeah. I mean, when I had, you know, first started writing the movie, I just was sort of like, yeah, I'm one of the guys. Like, I don't like that, like girly stuff, like, you know, what I love. And then, you know, I met Scott and I was like, hey, you know, it's like, tell me everything about the girly stuff, you know? So,
Yeah.
but honestly, in a more profound sense, you know, he's he's like bold and cool, and he's sort of like covered in tattoos and like takes life like that, you know, in a very brave way. And he feels like, you know, he takes love on that way too, and it was super inspiring. And he was like, no, it's far braver to jump all in, commit. That's badass, you know? And I was like, okay, I will have your children.
I love the perspective of the documentarian sort of filming the movie. So you're sort of getting the outsider's look. Is that what you were thinking of from the get-go?
Yeah, Dolly Wells, she plays
So good.
the documentarian who sort of like, you know,
Observing 3 different couples.
exactly.
Sort of.
She sort of like descends her kind of big world ideas and her cynical ideals on these people, and kind of makes a mess of them, kind of like a Puck-like character, you know? She kind of rebel rouser. And yeah, that was sort of my opinion about when I first started writing the movie, and then I sort of like fell into the sweetness. And it's no spoiler that this movie has a happy ending. And
You feel really good leaving the theater.
Yeah,
Is that something
like-
that you wanted from the get-go?
Oh my God, yeah. Even before.
Pretty
like,
rare in this day and age of
I
shoot 'em up
know.
sort of action. You know, it's nice that you sort of feel fulfilled.
You feel like, I feel like this is like chapter 1 in a lifelong investigation, hopefully, to, you know, and of this subject as a creator and, you know, as a creative person, and just as a wife. But I really, in this day and age, you know, there's a lot of tension and there's a lot of like angst, and we're all feeling it. And it's like, I'm so proud to have this little movie be out there in a way that's very sweet and kind-spirited, sort of unabashedly, just like real nice, you know?
I mean, when Vivian's giving sort of the dialogue in the beginning where she's just speaking about matrimony, you feel doomed from the get-go. You're like, how does this ever work? And then the movie sort of takes this turn where it disproves that theory. I mean, what parts of that dialogue was there from the get-go, and what things evolved, as your relationship grew on its own?
I think that the movement of the movie is such how I was feeling as I wrote it, which is like at first you're sort of cynical and jaded, and then you sort of warm into the real messaging of the movie, which is like, not just love the one you're with, but really like be unafraid to lean in and get muddy and messy with someone to come out the other end stronger and more evolved. Because after all, it's very difficult to really grow and change as a person if you're just bailing when the going gets tough. You know what I mean? If you're just like, oh, I'm not into you anymore because you just called me out on everything, then you're not going to grow necessarily. It's like scary to do that.
I'm sure as a writer, you're putting a few things of your own life in there. Were there any scenes or any?
I
Give us some sort of examples.
My therapy, okay, people. Like I go to therapy to write, and then I use writing as therapy. So it's like a really giving process. Backwards.
With some of that relationship dialogue in there from your actual.
Yeah, but I mean, I tend to take. I'm like my poor family because I've just like. I like sponge and suction. I feel like people are taking pictures of me right now. I'm the weirdest gesticulator. I'm always like, blah, blah, like
you look great. Don't worry about it.
But
exactly.
I'm just like, it's gonna be like, what was she doing? Acrobatics. But anyway, yes, no, I tend to pull a tremendous amount from my like mom and my dad and my sisters and Fanny, who played by Amber Heard, is very much. Inspired by my sister Josie, who's a magical kind of incredible fairy magician person. She's like unreal. And she's my younger sister. So I do pull from my family, and I hope they take it lovingly.
And you have a character that's all tatted up, sort of all the way in the neck. That sort of reminds me of Scott Campbell, who's Save Tattoo, famous tattoo artist.
Yes, I have quite a few non-actors in this movie, and you're referencing Zach Scheinbaum, who is a famous tattoo artist also in his own right, and I know him because of my husband, Scott Campbell. And I totally wrote that part with him in mind and thought, oh, well, I'll find an actor to play this character of Quilton. And then Zach, I was like, Zach, would you mind putting yourself on tape?
Three Kings tattoo. He's got his own sort of deal.
Oh, sorry, what?
Three Kings. He's got his own shop.
Yes.
He's got his own.
Yeah,
deal.
he works there. So anyway, he put himself on tape and just annihilated, and then just goes toe to toe with Paul Reiser. I was like, you're like a tattooed Woody Allen.
Yeah. Was that whole dialogue part where he's getting profiled because he's walking his dog? He's all tatted. Was that something that actually happened?
Yeah, Scott did get moderately arrested for walking his dog without a leash because of the tattoos that he does. He looks suspicious.
Yeah, but he's not at all. He's a very nice guy.
Oh, he's a great guy.
I've gotten to meet him.
Yeah, he's the guy who was like, I'm going to marry you, even though that's 100% not how he speaks.
How'd you guys meet from the get-go?
We met on How to Make It in America, which was an HBO show that I did that, in How to Make It, they would always bring very cool kind of, authentic New York characters on the show instead of being like, oh, let's hire an actor to play a tattoo artist. My character gets a tattoo, and they're like, let's just get a really cool tattoo artist like a Scott Campbell or Scott Campbell to do it. And so we met in the makeup trailer, and at first we were just friends, and then I was like, oh my God, and
no tattoos though.
He took me out for a steak dinner.
You have a few tattoos though.
Do I? Yeah. Oh, I only have this heart right here that he did on a random Tuesday for no reason. So pretty impressive.
That's kind of the hookup.
I've
a lot
tattooed
of people
him a lot. Don't get me wrong. I tattoo him all the time, but yeah.
Speaking of the cast, look
I'm
at this cast.
not joking, by the way. I really do. I have tattooed.
You have tattooed him?
Oh yeah.
What'd
like,
you tattoo him with?
Like all kinds of stuff. Like when we have a dream, like a wish or something, and we want to put good juju out in the world, I'll tattoo him the juju, and I'm like, and we do like a ceremony, and it's and then it's like a terrible tattoo, but he's like, it's all right. He always considers himself being like the bathroom wall at CBGB's, just like so many different things. It doesn't matter anymore.
It's like a good trust exercise as far as marriages go.
Oh yeah, totally. But totally, I think he's a good sport.
Yeah. Tell me about this whole cast, though. Ed Helm. Tell me about getting these guys cast in your film.
Yeah, Ed, and I like having this here.
It's like a great reference point right here.
So Edward Helms, he is a really good friend of mine, and I totally guilted him into doing this, and he was very cool. I was in love with both Mary Steenburgen and Paul Reiser from afar, and had to like woo them, big time. I had to kind of like send them.
How do you
cookies and
woo a
whatnot.
Paul Reiser? How
It's
do you? Yeah.
hard because they both are like prolific
Icons,
and
yes.
working all the time, and they don't have to work. And oh, hello, and Paul Reiser is right there. No, he's not. He's not.
Surprise.
But yeah, so they were fantastic, and you have to kind of there's a lot of this. There's this, whatever this is. There's a lot of it, and then with Amber, I knew her sort of somewhat socially, and so. She was a total good sport to come and do that. And Wyatt, I didn't know, but I appreciated him from afar and thought he was hilarious. And then Dolly Wells came to do my read through, because often in like the financing, seeking financing portion of making movies, you have to like, woo.
Fill some
Yeah.
rooms, get
Yeah.
some execs in there.
So we do, yeah, exactly. So I have always done a table read, and she came and did the table read and played Vivian and just sort of annihilated.
And you handed her the role right there. You're like, you
I
killed it.
didn't, because I was just more sweating about trying to get financing at the time. So I just wasn't able to like do that yet, but I was like, noted. And then I gave her the role. Yeah.
And what's it like to direct somebody like a Mary Steenburgen or a Paul
Well,
Reiser?
she just, is Oscar winner Mary Steenburgen. No, it is a big deal. So it's so exciting because, it's like having a racehorse. I mean, they're both just like legend and
Play
so
off each other
sharp.
so well. Did they know each
Yeah.
other before?
They didn't really know each other, and their chemistry was so effortless and beautiful, and in a movie about relationships, it's just like imperative, and it was just built in for them.
And he rides a motorcycle. Did you actually put Paul Reiser on a motorcycle, or is that
I put him on the motorcycle,
Okay.
but I did not have him actually
the insurance?
drive it.
You didn't want to actually have him drive
Correct.
it, probably.
There is a double movie magic. I will say that it is not him, but he's one of the greats.
I mean, speaking of the casting, Chase Crawford comes out of nowhere and just kills. I mean,
Crawford, you know him?
yeah, exactly. I mean, people, tell me how you found him and
So Chase
how
Crawford,
he came across.
both Chase Crawford and Amber Heard are both the most beautiful people in the planet. They're very like symmetrical, and you're just like, as a filmmaker, when you're looking at at the monitor and you're sort of lining people up, like they're on the screen and you're just like, I feel like warm and bubbly inside. This is amazing, because it's so gorgeous. And Chase, who's very, very funny, and a lot of people don't know that.
People don't know that about him, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool, because then it's like, I like taking like a dramatic actor and giving them a comedic, bump if people don't know about it, and then vice versa, taking a comedic actor and giving them, real circumstances to play. But
How does something like this evolve over the course of the writing? I mean, you've done 2 films so far. You also write for some other shows. I mean, tell me about how things evolve.
I will say I don't really write for other shows, but I do direct.
You
for
direct
other
them,
shows.
but yes.
Yeah, no, because I say that because as a writer, I don't think I could. I really don't think I could stomach giving something that I've written over, because
That's my question was going to be exactly handing
personal.
something over.
It's way too personal. I've rewritten, which I feel is a wise exercise for a writer to do, and that doesn't feel like I'm like giving my child, to someone else. I feel that when I'm writing, certainly a feature, I'm writing 1,000% for me to, with the intention to direct it, and to cast it, and to produce it. So.
How is this project different than In a World when you did that project?
The biggest difference, I mean, all of the sort of like systems that I had in play and preparations, all sort of, because there's a lot of lists, that's what this is, and then there's just a lot of storyboarding and preparation, just copious amounts. This was a little bit harder because I had 7 main characters, and but it was interesting because I wanted to challenge myself, try something new. I think the whole privilege of making movies and, getting to do this is like, you don't want to make the same thing. You want to try something new, And the other thing was I was a mother for the first time behind the scenes on this. So I had like a 1.5-year-old whilst doing all this Jim Jam. So, I was like, honey, yes, no, I understand completely. Okay, just a minute, okay? All right, everyone, back
Be
to
boss
one.
lady,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, back to one. Tell me about your fascination with the voiceover world and how that all started and how that turned into a film.
Yeah, I mean, I've just always been interested in the voice as a tool and what it represents as we walk through the planet and how we, it's people say, oh, your looks are your first impression, but in a way, I think that the voice becomes just as big a part of your sort of what you put out there in the world and how you see yourself even or how you hear yourself, It's something that I love it as an acting tool. I think it's really groovy to be able to do animation and to be any animal, gender, nationality, anything. It's like you're not judged by what you look like. You can be anyone. And then in a world also tackles my obsession with the idea that. The omniscient voice is always a male voice, and that when there is anything that is like, sort of presented or like advertisement or whatever, trying to sell you something, right? It's always like if it's a woman's voice, then it's like seductive, right? Why can't it just be like authoritarian? So anyway, it was just an interesting sort of cultural conversation that I had in the same way that I'm like culturally I want to talk about matrimony. It's like I have some bones to pick about these things and I'd like to talk about it,
Let's get it out there.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it like when you dive deep into that world and once you started getting feedback from the industry? Did you learn anything? Did you see any changes happening
from
in
the
the world?
voiceover world?
The voiceover world.
Well, I had a personal sort of victory with the voiceover business because after In a World, I got to be the first female voice for Apple. The
There
Apple
we go.
iPhone
Round of
6S.
applause for that.
which
Yeah,
was
that's great.
pretty cool because and I was up against men, and it was like I felt like I was in the movie, But it was like, well, I got the job, and I'm like up against this guy. It's me and this guy, and then it was like, Lake, you got the job, and I'm like, really, So then it was very cool to like have this like.
Were you doing like a Siri voice, or was it like
no, it was
yeah.
like all the ads. At one point, the Apple iPhone 6S was me, but it was pretty darn cool.
It's amazing. I mean, did you see directing in your future always once you started acting, or how did that sort of come to fruition?
Yeah, I always had seen it as something I was gonna do. But I just wasn't going to take it on until I had. It was like I had In a World as a script, and I sort of delivered it to my agents, and said.
How long did you have that as a script before you?
I secretly had it for a long time. I was adamant that I didn't want to show up and say, oh, I'm writing something without having something to show for it, So eventually I presented the script, and we shopped for a director, and then finally.
Let's cut the crap. I want to direct this.
No, my agent actually said, I think you should direct this. And
that means you had the right team around you, obviously.
What?
That means you had the
Exactly.
right team.
Yeah. And he said, well, I said, well, I just wouldn't direct something if I hadn't already directed something. And he's like, well, the chicken or the egg? I mean, what are you going to do? So then I just went home and wrote a short film, and that was Worst Enemy. Which ended up going to Sundance. Michaela Watkins stars in that, and it did really well. And then that was sort of my visual calling card, as a director.
And then you put her into In a World, and you also got another amazing cast. I mean, tell me about getting the cast for that.
For In a World?
For In a World, yeah.
That was amazing too. That was a lot of hey, will you do this? Because that was Rob Corddry, who's my brother, and then Michaela Watkins, who's my sister. Dimitri Martin I didn't know as well, and so I had to kind of mini woo him. And then I mean that Fred Melamed, same. I was just a really big fan of him from The Serious Man, and so it was cobbled together in the same sort of loving way. And I think indie movies, they're I mean, for me it's a very the process of it is it's camaraderie, it's athletic, you got to run around, it's everybody's got to be a teammate, it's just it's exhilarating for that reason. And for me as a writer, director, and producer and actor, I feel it's multi-dimensional filmic creation. It's really, yeah.
And you got to see some masters at work on sets yourself. You know, it's complicated. Some masters of,
Oh my
of
God, yeah.
directing. I mean, Nancy Myers. I mean, tell me about working with her.
Yeah, I mean, Nancy is definitely someone that I look up to. She is a badass. She makes huge movies that really please so many people, and she's just a master at her craft, at what she does, you know. And she has a very specific voice, and I think that's powerful to witness.
Yeah, and to see how she controls cast. I mean, you guys won an ensemble award for It's Complicated. That was incredible. I mean, Alec Baldwin.
Yeah,
Tell me
I
working
mean,
with him.
it was like, you know, my first day of shooting on It's Complicated was, I had to be quite high status, you know, and it was Meryl Streep.
People might have heard of her.
I know. I was like, "Is my?"
You can just say Meryl, I
It was
feel
like my
like.
first day of shoot. Okay, so Streep, Alec Baldwin, and Steve Martin, and myself, and I just was like, "Really? We had to schedule it like that?" And we like were rehearsing the scene, and I just can't. I'm like, I can't get it together. And Nancy sort of brought me aside, and she's like, "You need to get your act together right now, okay? Because you're going down, okay? And I need you back up here to like look." And I was like, it's really hard for me to be like high status right now because, you know, just I'm having a status problem, you know? And she's like, you need to like find your status and get back here. Yeah.
There we go. And that's what you did.
Yeah.
With
but it
this
was not
film.
easy.
Exactly.
Oh, this,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Oh, yeah. I'm back in status.
What's next for you? Are you writing something next? Or what's going on?
Yes, but I can't tell you about it. No, I
can't
can't.
tell
I
everyone?
cannot do that. That would be really silly. No, but I do have lots of things in the. This is the fire, I guess. Right. These are all the different things that are in
Well,
the
I'm
fire.
excited for all of
Making
those
it.
things. I think we have some questions in the audience
Oh,
that we're going to
great.
go to.
Okay, hi.
Thanks for being here. So you've had an opportunity to work with a lot of awesome actors and filmmakers. I'm wondering, are there any on your list of people that you're dying to work with you haven't had the chance yet?
I mean, yeah, there is a multitude of people that I would love to work with. I'm I'm like a Kate Blanchett kind of obsessed person, aren't we? Kind of slightly all.
Everybody
Like,
just
I know,
awed
like,
when she said the word. I'm not sure if you can
everyone's
hear that online, but
I mean, she's amazing. So I think I look up to her in a multitude of ways. She's also just like cool because she has her private life and is very successful at keeping that private, as well as, you know, she has like has a robust family life while having an incredible career. I think that's very cool.
absolutely. Next question.
Hey, how do you think filming, shooting, writing in a world, what are kind of the few, I guess, top like lessons or takeaways from that experience informed filming, writing, directing, I do until I don't?
I think for both of those projects, it was just the amount of preparation could not be underestimated. There's no way to possibly phone it in on either of them, you know? I think that, you know, when you are taking on all of those items, it's just so, you will not have fun unless you are just like an academic in preparing. And I wanted to have fun. I do. Even like when I'm director for hire on Casual or whatever, right? I really, it's important to me to shot list and storyboard, and even if my storyboards are like stick figure, you know, like I like to know exactly where I'm going to put the camera. I need to understand that and unpack all of that. So I arrive on set, and then when they're happy, and when there are accidents that happen, I am prepared to take those on with a sense of humor versus like, you know. So that's just what makes it fun.
Okay, one last question.
Hey,
Hi.
I was just wondering, like, as a director, being your second film, is there like any techniques that you use, or like maybe certain directors that you look towards to, you know, help with your craft?
Yeah, of course. I mean, as an actor, I think I've utilized my acting career as film school. You know, so being on sets and kind of sponging from every director I've ever worked with and every sort of, you know, I'm pointing to this jib here. But any sort of toy, sort of filmic toy or lens or, all of those things inform how I take on my own projects and I learn things. And that was interesting, that the way that Rick Waugh talked to me when I was doing that really emotional scene, and I kind of like that cue that he gave me that really helped me get to that place. All of those things I sponge, in the mechanics of filmmaking, as well as the emotionality and the sort of tone of the set or whatever it is. So. I feel it's really important for me to continue to work as an actor and be an actor for hire, because it's my opportunity to get a college level course in directing with my favorite directors.
Well, guys, I Do Until I Don't is the film. Tell all of your friends it's in theaters right now. One more round of applause for Lake Bell. Come on, guys, give it up.